The Holy Book, Sefer Hayashar, Episode 24. The Kabbalists warn that one must not travel alone without contemplating thoughts of Torah or fear of heaven, lest the Sitra Achra cling to him. The Zohar states clearly in Parshas Vayishlach 169b that even in town, if a person is out alone at an hour that people are not usually found on the street, the Sitra Achara will cling to him, and he will not escape without committing some iniquity that very day. Therefore, he must conduct himself in the following manner. If he plans on going out alone to tend to his affairs very early or very late in the day, when few people are around, let him recite in front of the mezuzah the verse, "Cast your burden upon Hashem, and he will provide for you." Tehillim 55.23. And when he comes to the divine name, let him envision it with the vowels of the word Yehavecha. He will provide for you. That is, with the Sheva beneath the Yud and the Kametz beneath the Hey, the Sheva beneath the Vav and the Kametz beneath the second Hey. Since a Sheva resembles two Yudim, one on top of the other, and the Kametz resembles a reclining Vav with a Yud beneath it, the numerical value of this vocalization is equal to 6 Yudim, 2 Vavim, or 72. This is the same as the numerical value of the word chesed, loving kindness. I have also found it written in the name of a certain great rabbi of Ashkenaz that if a person intends on rising early to travel alone to another city, he should recite the verse, "Commit your way to Hashem and trust in him, and he will do." Tehillim 37.5. When he comes to the divine name, let him picture it with the vocalization of the word darkecha, your way. That is, with a pasach which resembles a reclining vav beneath the yud, a shava beneath the first hay, a segel which resembles 3 yudim arranged in a triangle beneath the vav, and a kametz beneath the hay. Again, for a total of 72, the value of loving kindness. If he will do this, he will be protected, so that the Sitra Achra will not cling to him. Nevertheless, in both these cases, it is necessary that he contemplate the words of the Torah, or fear of heaven, while he is on the road. Only then will he be protected from the Sitra Achara. When he first sets out, he's especially in need of protection. So let him be sure to recite the traveler's prayer as well. A person must also resolve not to be too miserly, for although the Holy One, blessed is He, can incline a person's heart at will towards generosity or miserliness, it is better that the individual motivate himself in this regard rather than praying that Hashem change his heart. Nevertheless, he must also not be too liberal and give beyond his means, lest he himself be in need of charity later on. Now, let us return to our original topic. It is preferable to recite the traveler's prayer at home before setting out, as it is taught in the Zohar in Parshas Beshalach. Rabbi Abba began and said, "It is most proper to recite the traveler's prayer at home before setting out. It is also good to recite the portion of the binding of Yitzchak." Here's what the Zohar has to say on the matter of Parshas Vayishlach 178a. Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yitzchak were walking along the road when the time for the morning Shema arrived. Rabbi Elazar stood and prayed and recited the Shema along with the morning prayers. Rabbi Yitzchak asked, "Did we not learn that before a man sets out on a journey, he must seek the leave of his master and pray?" Rabbi Elazar replied, "When I set out upon the road, neither the time for the Shema nor the time for the prayer had yet arrived. Therefore, now that the sun has arisen, I prayed. Nevertheless, before setting out, I did make request of the Holy One, blessed is He, and seek His leave." They walked until they came to a field. They sat down and saw a mountain towering over them, upon which were strange creatures. Rabbi Yitzchak became frightened. "Why are you afraid?" asked Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Yitzchak replied, "I see that this mountain is very rugged, and I see that the creatures upon it are strange, and I am afraid lest they begin a quarrel with us." Rabbi Lazar said back to him, "If a person is afraid, it is only because of the sins that he is afraid." He then cited, there are two sons of Tzivon, Aya and Anna, the same Anna who found the mules, Yemim, in the desert. The word Yemim is written with a missing yud. The concept here is that there is a certain kind of destructive spirit, heaven spare us, that focuses in particular upon those guilty of immoral acts, from which the mamzerim are produced. Example, adulterous or incestuous relations, bearing the penalty of excision. These spirits are called Yemim. It is written without a yud to indicate that they were created on the eve of the first Shabbos just at dusk, relating Yemim to Yom, day. It is plural but missing the plural yud to indicate that it is doubtful to which day this creature belongs. The proper place of these destructive spirits is upon the high mountains where no seed or tree can be planted. That barren region is their proper place, and these are the strange creatures that Rabbi Yitzchak saw. Anna mentions in the verse above, once visited that mountain where these creatures adhered to him. Therefore, as the sages tell us in Pesachim 54a, he himself gave birth to the Mamzerim, and that he also was the first one to graft different species and produce the mule, a hybrid of a horse and a donkey. The Zohar mentions in the continuation of that passage that all desolate mountains are their dwelling place. However, concerning those who engage in study while they travel, it is written, Hashem, your shelter, is at your right hand. Tehillim 121.5. Nevertheless, a person should avoid places where there is no human habitation. According to a reliable tradition received from the pious scholars of early generations, no Jew should take up residence in any house that has stood unoccupied for 7 consecutive years. It is even perilous to build a new house on the site of such a structure, because it has already become a dwelling place for damaging and destructive spirits. As for why the house was destroyed in the first place, there are 3 reasons. The first is that it contains a beam, board, or stone that was stolen or purchased with ill-gotten money. This resembles plague of the house, which later spreads to the entire structure. The second reason is that the one who built it was violent and unjust towards his neighbors and misappropriated land that did not belong to him. The third reason is that even if no justice was involved in the construction of the house, the builder had in mind only his physical welfare and enjoyment and did not intend that his actions be for the sake of heaven. He did not consider, for example, which corner of the house would be designated for his fixed times for study and which for prayer. Moreover, thought alone is not sufficient, for one must actually make these designations verbally, as it is clear from the following passage from the Zohar, Parshas Tazria 50a. When a person builds a house, just as soon as he begins to work, he must mention that he is building it to serve the Holy One, blessed is He. Then heaven's assistance will settle upon it, and the Holy One, blessed is He, will imbue it with sanctity and pronounce over it peace. Thus it is written, and you shall know that in your tent there is peace, and you shall instruct your dwelling place and not sin. Eov 5.24. That is, you must give instruction verbally when you build it, and then you will not sin. If a person fails to do this, the Sitra Achara waits for the opportunity to settle upon the house. This is especially the case if the builder's intention was to defile himself there. For example, if one builds a house or designates a room in one's house for the uncircumcised to come and drink and engage in frivolity and immorality, this error has become common in Poland and Lithuania, and no one protests. In such a case, the spirit of defilement will certainly settle upon the house, and the one who built it will not leave this world until he is punished through that very house. Whoever lives in such a house is also liable to come to harm, for the spirit of defilement resting upon it causes harm to all who are found there. And if you should ask, how can one know that the spirit of defilement is in the house? The answer is that if the builder or any of the members of the household have suffered harm from the house, whether physical or financial, the cause is the sins mentioned above. Therefore, if a person becomes aware that this is the case, he should transfer his lodgings elsewhere and not remain there. This is the idea behind the plagues that struck the houses of the Israelites, found standing when they entered the Holy Land. Because of Hashem's great love and affection for Israel, he decreed that any house that had previously been designated for immorality would be stricken with a plague, so that it would have to be torn down, and the wood and the earth cast out of the city and replaced. The purpose of this was so that the Israelites themselves would not come to harm. The Zohar relates further. One day, Rabbi Yossi came to a certain house. When he reached the threshold and entered, he heard a voice saying, "Come and gather around, for one of our opponents has arrived. Gather around and let us harm him before he leaves." Then he heard another voice saying, "We cannot do so unless he dwells here for a time. But since he has only entered temporarily, we may not harm him." Then Rabbi Yossi went out and observed, "Surely whoever transgresses the words of his colleagues is worthy of death." Rabbi Chia asked, "But we see that Gentiles frequently rebuild houses that have been abandoned for more than 7 years, yet they are unaffected." He replied, "Those people derive from the same source as the damaging spirits themselves. Therefore, they are not harmed because they form a single company, for they too engage in immorality. Thus, they are as if they derived from the same shell. By contrast, one who fears sin may very well come to harm. Heaven forbid." So no matter what a person undertakes to do, let him begin with the Creator's service. For example, when he builds a house, let him consider first where he will place his books and where he will study. Similarly, if he sets about fashioning clothing for himself or his wife, let him have in mind when he first begins working and also at the time of the sowing that it should be for the sake of heaven. For the Holy One, blessed is He, has indicated to us in His Holy Torah that a human being must be clothed. As it is written, Hashem made tunics of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. Bereshit 3.21. The general principle is, in all your ways know Him. Mishlei 3.6. In all your affairs recall, and do not forget that everything is a gift from Hashem. For bread is not to the wise. Koheles 9.11. You can see for yourself that many intelligent people go without food or sustenance, spending all their days in deprivation and suffering. Meanwhile, there are foolish and lowly individuals who enjoy abundance and wealth. This demonstrates that everything is dependent upon the will of the Holy One, blessed is He. For this reason, too, one must see that all his business affairs are conducted in a way that is pleasing to the Holy One, blessed is He, for the benefit of his soul, and not just the body. But if his heart is as hard as iron towards the poor, if all his toil is for his stomach, if he is absorbed with the pursuits of dainties and delights, for him it is written, "This is an evil matter that has been given to mortals." Ibid 1.13. Therefore, let every man pray to the King of mercy that he be granted a heart of flesh, a heart that hears the pleas of the needy and the cries of the indigent, a heart that is inclined to do kindness towards poor Torah scholars. For even if a person supports the poor, the Zohar 1.171a admonishes that he must be sure to support the scholars, and even if they are not related to him, they take precedence over his relatives. For if a person fails to support poor scholars, he gives succor and power to the primordial snake and its cohorts on account of many sins. Hashem in his mercy caused the snake to crawl on its belly and deprived it of its legs. Otherwise, the holy Israelite nation would be unable to survive. Heaven forbid. But as a result of the failure to support the scholars, who are called the needy, Evionim, legs are given to the snake so that it increases in power, bringing on evil decrees. Heaven forbid. Therefore, a person must pray to the Holy One, blessed is He, that He incline his heart towards a level of generosity appropriate to his means, neither miserly nor spendthrift. He must not be too liberal, lest he himself become dependent upon others. Heaven forbid. Yet despite this concern, he must not become overly tight-fisted. Come see what is written in the Zohar in Parshas Beshalach 65a. Rabbi Abba began with the verse, "There is a sickly evil that I have seen beneath the sun." Koheles 5.12. How dense are people's hearts because they do not toil in Torah. Is there such a thing as a sickness that is not evil? Rather, the concept is this. There's a certain category of destructive agents, heaven spare us, which sometimes arise from the female aspect, from the great chasm, minukva dishoma rabba. They come and settle upon a man, subjugating him to them so that they no longer have control over his money. Not only is he unable to give charity to the poor, he does not even have enough control over his wealth to purchase food or clothing befitting his means for himself, his wife, and the members of his household. His appearance is lowly and emaciated, and he is hungry and thirsty. He is beset by afflictions and dressed in rags. And even though his house is filled with all manner of goodness, and he derives no pleasure from it, for it has been announced in heaven that all this goodness is prepared for another. Thus the verse states, "The wicked prepare and the righteous wear." Eov 27.17. The category of destructive agents mentioned above are called evil. Concerning them it states, "No evil shall befall you." Tehillim 91.10. Their victim resembles a sick person who has before him every delicacy in the world, yet he is unable to enjoy any of it because of his sickness. Thus the miser derives no benefit from his deeds in this world or the next, other than the shrouds in which he is buried. This is the meaning of the verse in Koheles 6.2. As for the man upon whom God bestows wealth, property, and honor, but God does not give him dominion over it, this is too a sickly evil. Therefore, let a man be sure to do what is upright in the eyes of God and men. For a good name is better than fine oil. Koheles 7.1. Then all will be well with him while he is here. He will pass from the world with a good name, and he will also enjoy good fortune in the world to come.